Amelia came to Silveridge to heal a broken heart, not deliver a calf alone in a barn or spark something unexpected with the grieving rancher, Noah. But with every sunset, her heart begins to hope again. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The morning sun broke through the clouds as Amelia Duarte drove her small sedan down the winding country road. City buildings and traffic had given way to endless fields, scattered farmhouses, and a sky bigger than she'd ever seen before. At 26, she'd never spent more than a weekend away from the city. Now she was about to spend 3 weeks in the middle of nowhere. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, gripping the steering wheel tighter. It's just 3 weeks. 3 weeks since Richard had handed back her engagement ring. 3 weeks since he'd told her that their 5-year relationship had been a mistake. 3 weeks of crying herself to sleep in the apartment they once shared. The GPS on her phone beeped, interrupting her thoughts. "In half a mile, your destination will be on the right. Silveridge Ranch." Amelia took a deep breath and slowed down, looking for the entrance. The veterinary internship program had seemed like the perfect escape when her supervisor suggested it. Get away from the city, from the pitying looks of friends, from the constant reminders of Richard. Focus on work, focus on animals. They, at least, wouldn't break her heart. A wooden sign marked the entrance to Silveridge Ranch as she turned onto the gravel driveway. Amelia's first impression was of vastness. Rolling hills stretched as far as she could see, dotted with grazing cattle. A 2-story farmhouse stood in the distance, weathered but sturdy, with a large red barn nearby. She parked her car in front of the house and stepped out, the cool morning air filling her lungs. For a moment, she stood there, taking it all in. The silence was different here, not the absence of sound, but a different kind of fullness. Birds chirping, leaves rustling, the distant lowing of cattle. The screen door of the farmhouse creaked open, and a woman in her 60s stepped out onto the porch, wiping her hands on her apron. "You must be the vet intern," she called out with a warm smile. "I'm Martha, the housekeeper. Come on in, dear. You must be tired after that long drive." Amelia smiled back, grateful for the friendly welcome. "I'm Amelia. Thank you for having me." Martha led her into a cozy kitchen that smelled of fresh bread and coffee. "I've got your room already upstairs. Noah's out checking the herd, but he should be back for lunch. He doesn't talk much, so don't take it personally." Noah Callahan, the owner of Silveridge," Martha explained, pouring Amelia a cup of coffee. "Good man, but keeps to himself these days. Been through a lot." Amelia nodded, not wanting to pry. She was here to work with animals, not get involved in anyone's personal life. Her own heart was too bruised for that. After settling into her room, a simple but comfortable space with a view of the pastures, Amelia changed into jeans and work boots. She was eager to start, to fill her mind with new tasks and responsibilities. They were setting the table for lunch when the back door opened. A tall man entered, removing his dusty cowboy hat. Amelia's first thought was that he looked carved from the land itself, strong, weathered, and unsmiling. His dark hair was slightly too long, his face tanned from working outdoors. He looked to be around 30, but his eyes seemed older somehow. "Noah," Martha said. "This is Amelia Duarte, the veterinary intern from the city." Those eyes, deep, stormy blue, turned to her. Assessing, he gave a curt nod. "Miss Duarte, hope you're ready to work." "I am," Amelia replied, extending her hand. "And please, call me Amelia." He hesitated before shaking her hand briefly. His palm was rough with calluses. "Your first day starts after lunch. I'll show you around the property. We've got 60 head of cattle, some horses, chickens, and a few barn cats that think they run the place." His voice was deep and matter-of-fact, without warmth or welcome. But Amelia hadn't come for warmth. She'd come to work, to heal, to forget. "I'm looking forward to it," she said simply. Lunch was a quiet affair. Martha tried to keep conversation flowing, asking Amelia about the city and her training as a veterinarian. Noah ate silently, his attention seemingly focused on something far away. "So, what made you choose a rural internship?" Martha asked as she served apple pie for dessert. Amelia hesitated. "I wanted a change of scenery, and I'd like to expand my experience beyond small domestic animals." "Well, you'll certainly get that here," Martha said with a chuckle. "Last month, Noah had to help deliver twin calves in the middle of a thunderstorm." Noah stood abruptly. "If you're finished, we should start the tour." Outside, the afternoon sun warmed the air as Noah led Amelia toward the barn. His strides were long, and she had to walk quickly to keep up. "The medicine cabinet is in the back room of the barn," he explained, his tone busy. "Dr. Wilson comes by twice a month for scheduled checkups, but you'll handle any day-to-day issues. I expect you to keep a detailed log of any treatments or medications you administer." "Of course." Amelia nodded, mentally taking notes. The barn was larger than it appeared from outside, with stalls for horses on one side and an area for sick or injured cattle on the other. Everything was meticulously organized, from the feed bins to the medical supplies. "You've kept everything in great condition," Amelia observed. Noah glanced at her, a flicker of something perhaps crossing his face before disappearing. My brother and I built most of this ourselves. He was good with his hands. Was the past tense hung in the air between them. Before Amelia could respond, a soft whiny came from one of the stalls. Noah led her to a beautiful chestnut mare, her stomach visibly swollen with pregnancy. This is Maple, she's due in about 3 weeks. You'll want to keep an eye on her. Amelia approached the horse slowly, speaking in soft tones. Maple nuzzled her hand gently. She's beautiful. Is this her first full? Noah nodded. First one went fine, but you never know. I'll check on her daily, Amelia promised. They continued the tour, with Noah pointing out various areas of the ranch, the calving pen, the equipment shed, the chicken coop, the grazing pastures that stretched over rolling hills. Throughout it all, his manner remained distant, professional, not cold, exactly, but closed off, as if a wall stood between him and the rest of the world. As the afternoon wore on, Amelia began to see what Martha had meant. The ranch was beautiful, the operations well run, but there was a heaviness in the air, a silence that seemed stitched into the walls of the house and barn. It clung to Noah like a shadow. The far pasture is about a mile that way, Noah said, pointing to the north. If you need to go out there, always take the ATV. Sometimes cell service drops in the valley. I understand, Amelia said. Is there anything else I should know? Noah looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Just do your job, keep the animals healthy, and we'll get along fine. With that, he turned and walked toward the house, leaving Amelia standing alone by the barn. The message was clear. Keep your distance. Do your work. Don't ask questions. It suited her just fine. She wasn't here to make friends or connections. She was here to heal her own wounds, to find some peace in hard work and routine, to escape the echo of Richard's words. I don't think I ever really loved you. That evening, after a quiet dinner with Martha, Noah had taken his plate to his office. Amelia sat on the porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange. The vastness of the land both intimidated and comforted her. Here, under this enormous sky, her problems seemed smaller somehow. The screen door creaked, and Martha joined her, offering a cup of tea. Beautiful, isn't it? The older woman said, nodding toward the sunset. It's amazing, Amelia agreed. So different from the city. Martha settled into a rocking chair. Noah used to sit out here every evening with his brother, Sam. They'd talk about their day, make plans for the ranch. Those boys were as close as 2 peas in a pod. Amelia hesitated, then asked softly, what happened to Sam? Martha's face grew. Sad accident. 2 years ago, they were fixing the roof of the barn when Sam fell. Noah was right there but couldn't save him. She sighed deeply. Noah hasn't been the same since. Blames himself, though there was nothing he could have done. That's terrible, Amelia murmured, her heart aching for the man who carried such a burden. Ranch was their dream. You see, they built it together from almost nothing. Now, Noah keeps it going, works from dawn till dusk, but the joy is gone from it. Martha looked at Amelia. So don't take his manner personally. He's just ... surviving. Amelia nodded, understanding all too well what it meant to simply survive each day. Wasn't that what she herself was doing? I won't, she promised. That night, lying in her bed listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the countryside, Amelia thought about Noah Callahan, a man who'd lost not just his brother but his dream, his purpose. I've got a farm to run, flood or no flood. You can help me? Eva laughed. I kill houseplants. I don't know the first thing about farming. Then it's time you learned. There was a challenge in his eyes that Eva couldn't back down from. That morning, Eva Sinclair, who had never been closer to a chicken than the packaged breasts she bought at the grocery store, found herself collecting eggs from the hen. Caleb showed her how to reach under the hens gently, how to speak softly to keep them calm. They're not as dumb as people think, he told her. They remember who's kind to them and who isn't. By noon, Eva had helped feed the animals, learned how to milk a cow with limited success and much laughter, and discovered muscles she never knew she had. Her designer sneakers were beyond saving now, so Caleb had found her a pair of rubber boots that were only slightly too big. They ate lunch on the porch, watching the water slowly recede from the yard. You're not what I expected, Caleb said suddenly. Eva turned to him. What do you mean? When I first saw you, all city clothes and looking scared, I thought you'd be useless on a farm. He looked at her appraisingly. But you learn quick, and you don't complain. My mom always said I was stubborn, Eva smiled, the memory bittersweet. When I was little, she'd tell me I was too headstrong for my own good. Sounds like my sister, Caleb said, and for the first time, there was no pain in his eyes when he mentioned her. Annie never backed down from anything. Used to drive our parents crazy. What happened to your parents? Eva asked, realizing she hadn't seen any recent photos of them. Dad had a heart attack when I was 19. Mom couldn't handle the farm alone, so I dropped out of college to help. She moved to Florida 3 years ago, lives with her sister now. The simple way he stated these life-altering events struck Eva in the city. People dramatized everything. Caleb just stated facts, as if the drama was understood without needing to be expressed. You gave up college for the farm? She asked. Caleb shrugged. It's been Warren land for 4 generations. Couldn't let it go. Don't you ever get lonely out here? The question hung in the air between them. Caleb took a long time to answer. Got used to it, he said finally. After Annie died, it was just me. You adapt. But Eva saw something in his eyes that contradicted his words, a loneliness that matched her own. She'd been surrounded by people in the city but had felt more alone than ever after her mother died. Sometimes being alone wasn't about how many people were around you. That evening, Eva insisted on cooking dinner. Caleb's kitchen was well stocked. He told her he only went to town for groceries once a month, and she managed to put together a decent pasta dish. This is good, Caleb said, sounding surprised. Eva laughed. Don't sound so shocked. I can cook. My mom taught me. What did she do? Your mom? She was a nurse. Single mom. Raised me on her own after my dad left when I was a baby. Eva twirled pasta around her fork. She worked double shifts sometimes to make sure I could go to college. I became a graphic designer because of her. She always encouraged me to be creative. She sounds like a good woman, Caleb said. The best. Eva blinked back sudden tears. I miss her every day. Caleb was quiet for a moment. Then, it doesn't go away. The missing them. But it gets ... different, less raw. Eva nodded, grateful for his honesty. No empty platitudes about time healing all wounds or her mother being in a better place. Just the truth that grief changes but never truly leaves. After dinner, Caleb showed her how to fix the old radio in the living room. His hands were large but surprisingly dexterous as he worked with the small components. My dad taught me, he explained when she commented on his skill. Said a farmer needs to know how to fix everything because the repairman costs too much to call out here. The radio crackled to life, playing an old country song. Eva smiled as Caleb adjusted the volume. What's so funny? He asked. Nothing. It's just ... this whole situation. Yesterday I was lost in a storm, and now I'm fixing radios on a farm with a man I barely know. Life is strange sometimes. Strange isn't always bad, Caleb said, his eyes meeting hers. Something shifted between them in that moment, a recognition that whatever was happening here was more than just a stranded traveler and a reluctant host. That night Eva lay in bed thinking about Caleb Warren. He was nothing like the men she dated in the city, ambitious, talkative men who were always planning their next career move. Caleb was steady, rooted to this land in a way she'd never been, rooted to anything. Yet, there was something about him that called to her, a depth behind his quiet exterior, a strength that came from facing loss and continuing anyway. As she drifted off to sleep, Eva realized that for the first time since her mother died, she hadn't thought about going back to the city all day. Instead, she found herself looking forward to tomorrow, to seeing what other surprises this unexpected detour might bring. The morning sun streamed through the curtains, waking Eva from the deepest sleep she'd had in months. For a moment she forgot where she was, expecting to see her apartment walls. Instead, she found herself in Caleb's guest room, surrounded by faded floral wallpaper and the distant sounds of a rooster crowing. 3 days had passed since the storm, and though the floodwaters had receded enough that she could probably leave now, Eva found herself making excuses to stay. Just one more day, she kept telling herself. One more day of peace before returning to reality. She dressed in another pair of Annie's jeans and a simple blue t-shirt, then headed downstairs. Caleb was already gone. He rose with the sun every day, but he'd left coffee brewing and a note on the kitchen table. Fixing fence in the north pasture. Eggs in the fridge if you're hungry. See, Eva smiled at his brief message. Caleb wasn't a man of many words, but in the days she'd spent here, she'd learned to read between the lines. The fact that he'd taken the time to leave coffee and a note meant something. After breakfast, Eva pulled on her borrowed rubber boots and headed outside. The morning air was crisp and clean in a way city air never was. She could see Caleb in the distance, hammering at fence posts. Without really thinking about it, she started walking toward him. He looked up as she approached, wiping sweat from his brow. Morning. Need some help, she offered. Caleb glanced at her city-soft hands and raised an eyebrow. These posts need to be driven deep. It's not easy work. I'm stronger than I look, Eva challenged, putting her hands on her hips. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. All right then, hold this post while I hammer. For the next hour they worked side by side, repairing the fence that had been damaged in the storm. Eva's muscles protested, unused to such labor, but she refused to complain. There was something satisfying about the physical work, about seeing tangible results from their efforts. You're doing good, Caleb said as they finished the last section. It wasn't effusive praise, but from him, it meant something. Thanks, though I'll probably be sore tomorrow. Hot bath helps with that. Annie used to add Epsom salts. He mentioned his sister casually now, the way people do when grief has softened enough to allow happy memories. As they walked back to the house, Caleb asked, "What do you do in the city?" "I'm a graphic designer. I work for an advertising agency." Even saying it out loud felt strange here, so far from deadlines and client meetings. "You like it?" The question was simple, but it made Eva pause. Did she like it? She'd never really considered the question. "It pays the bills," she said finally, "and sometimes I get to be creative." "But do you like it?" Caleb persisted. I don't know, Eva admitted. Since my mom got sick, work has just been work. I took a lot of time off to care for her, and when I went back, nothing felt important anymore. Caleb nodded, understanding in his eyes. After Annie died, I couldn't see the point in anything. For a while, we just went through the motions. How did you get past it? Eva asked. The animals needed feeding, crops needed tending. Farm doesn't care if you're grieving. He looked out over his land. Eventually, I started caring again too. Back at the house, they ate lunch on the porch. Eva found herself studying Caleb's profile when he wasn't looking, the strong line of his jaw, the way the sun had darkened his skin, how his eyes crinkled slightly at the corners despite his young age. The roads should be clear enough now, he said suddenly, not looking at her. If you wanted to head out today, Eva's heart sank. Was he asking her to leave? Are you trying to get rid of me? Caleb finally turned to her. No, just figured you'd want to get back to your life. What life? Eva wanted to ask. Her mother was gone. Her job felt meaningless. Her apartment was just a place to sleep. What was she rushing back to? I was thinking I might stay another day or two, she said carefully, if that's okay with you. Something like relief flickered across Caleb's face. It's okay. That afternoon, Caleb showed her how to check the chicken coop for eggs and repair holes where predators might get in. His hands were rough from years of manual labor, but they moved with surprising gentleness when handling the chickens. They trust you, Eva observed, as a hen settled contentedly in his palm. Known most of these birds since they hatched, Caleb said they know I won't hurt them. The simplicity of his relationship with the animals struck Eva in the city. Relationships were complicated. People said one thing and meant another, made promises they didn't keep, left when things got tough. Out here, things were clearer. You took care of what mattered to you. You showed up every day. That evening, rain began to fall again, a gentle shower, nothing like the storm that had brought Eva here. They sat in the living room, the repaired radio playing softly in the background. Caleb was reading a farming magazine while Eva sketched in a notebook she'd found in the guest room. What are you drawing? Caleb asked, looking up from his reading. Eva hesitated, then turned the notebook toward him. It was a sketch of the barn, with Caleb standing in the doorway just as she'd first seen him. His eyes widened slightly. That's good, really good, thanks. Eva felt her cheeks warm at his praise. I used to draw all the time when I was younger. Before college, before I started focusing on computer design. Why'd you stop? Eva shrugged. No time, I guess. And it doesn't pay as well as digital work. Seems a shame. Caleb looked at the drawing again. You've got a gift. The way he said it matter-of-factly, as if stating an obvious truth, made Eva's heart beat a little faster. When was the last time someone had appreciated her art for art's sake, not for what it could sell or promote? Do you mind if I draw more? Around the farm. It's your time, Caleb said. Use it how you want. The next day, Eva found herself sketching everything: the old tractor in the field, the cows grazing in the pasture, the way the sunlight filtered through the trees. She felt a creative energy she hadn't experienced in years. Caleb went about his chores, occasionally glancing her way but never interrupting. There was a comfortable rhythm to their days now. Breakfast together. Then Caleb would work on the farm while Eva helped or sketched. They'd meet for lunch, work, or explore in the afternoon, then share dinner in quiet evenings. It was so different from Eva's hectic city life, where every minute was scheduled and relationships were squeezed into convenient time slots. Here, she and Caleb simply existed together, their connection growing naturally in the spaces between words. A week had passed since the storm. Eva's car was now fully accessible, the roads completely clear. There was no practical reason for her to stay any longer, yet neither of them mentioned her leaving. One evening, Eva found Caleb sitting on the porch steps, staring at the sunset. She sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "Penny, for your thoughts," she said. "Just thinking about the harvest coming up. Need to make sure the equipment's ready." He turned to look at her, his eyes serious. "What about you? What are you thinking about?" "That I should probably go back soon." The words felt heavy in her mouth. "I've already stayed much longer than I planned." Caleb was quiet for a long moment. "You don't have to go," he said finally, his voice low. "Not if you don't want to." Eva's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "I mean, double quotes." He seemed to struggle with the words. "I like having you here, Eva." Coming from another man, it might have seemed like a small statement. But from Caleb, who measured his words as carefully as he measured feed for his animals, it was a declaration. "I like being here," Eva admitted, "but I can't just stay indefinitely. I have a job, an apartment, double quotes." "I understand." Caleb's face closed off slightly, and he looked back at the sunset. Eva wanted to say more, to explain the confused feelings swirling inside her, but she didn't know how to put them into words. Instead, they sat in silence as the sun disappeared. Behind the hills, that night, Eva couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Caleb's words, "You don't have to go," and the look in his eyes when he'd said them. No one had ever looked at her that way before, like she was something precious he was afraid to lose. Richard, her ex-boyfriend, had always treated her like an accessory to his life, a pretty, talented girlfriend who looked good on his arm. at office parties but became inconvenient when she needed emotional support. When her mother got sick, he'd been sympathetic at first, but as the months wore on and Eva spent more time at the hospital than at his apartment, his patience had worn thin. "I didn't sign up for this," he'd said the night he broke up with her, just 3 days after her mother's funeral. "I need someone who can be present in this relationship." The words had cut deep, confirming Ava's greatest fear that she was only lovable when she was easy to love. But Caleb wasn't like that. He'd taken her in at her lowest point, dirty, lost, grieving, and hadn't asked for anything in return. He'd given her space when she needed it and company when she craved it. He'd seen her at her most vulnerable and hadn't turned away. The morning Eva found Caleb in the barn fixing a piece of equipment. Sunlight streamed through cracks in the old wooden walls, illuminating dust motes in the air. "Good morning," she said. He looked up, a smudge of grease on his cheek. "Morning." Eva took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about what you said last night." Caleb set down his tools and gave her his full attention. "I can't just stay here forever," she said. "I need to go back, at least to sort things out. But I don't want this to be goodbye." "What do you want it to be?" Caleb asked, his voice carefully neutral. "I don't know exactly, but I know I want to come back. I want to see where this," he gestured between them, "where we might go." The tension in Caleb's shoulders eased slightly. "I'd like that." It wasn't a passionate declaration, but Eva was learning that with Caleb. The depth of feeling lay beneath the surface. His simple "I'd like that" carried more weight than flowery speeches from other men. They agreed that Eva would return to the city the next day, take care of her responsibilities, and come back to the farm the following weekend. It was a plan, a promise of something continuing rather than ending. That afternoon, a surprise visitor arrived at the farm. A red pickup truck came bouncing up the driveway, and a middle-aged woman with gray-streaked hair stepped out. "Martha," Caleb said, looking surprised. "Didn't expect you today. Thought I'd bring over some of those preserves I promised you," the woman said, then stopped short when she spotted Eva. "Oh, I didn't realize you had company." Caleb made the introductions. Martha Wilson was a neighbor who lived about 5 miles down the road. She'd been friends with Caleb's mother and kept an eye on him since his parents were gone. "So how'd you two meet?" Martha asked, her eyes bright with curiosity as they sat at the kitchen table with coffee and her homemade strawberry preserves. Eva and Caleb exchanged glances. "Ava's car got caught in the flood," Caleb explained. "She's been staying here until things dried out for a week." Martha raised an eyebrow, looking between them. Eva felt herself blushing. "Caleb's been very kind." "I'll bet he has," Martha said with a knowing smile. "It's about time this boy had some company besides those cows of his Martha," Caleb warned, but there was no real annoyance in his voice as Martha chatted away, filling them in on local gossip. Eva watched Caleb. He was more relaxed around Martha, almost like a nephew with a favorite aunt. It was nice to see he might interact with someone else, to be reminded that he did have connections beyond the solitary life he'd described. After Martha left, promising to bring Eva her special recipe for apple pie next time you're here, Caleb shook his head. "She have told half the county about you by dinner time," he said. Eva laughed. "Is that bad?" "No," Caleb said, looking at her with that almost smile. "Not bad at all." Their last evening together had a bittersweet quality. Eva cooked dinner using skills she hadn't realized she possessed before this week, and they ate on the porch as the first stars appeared in the sky. "I made something for you," Eva said, pulling out her sketchbook. She'd torn out a page and carefully folded it. Caleb opened it to find a drawing of his farmhouse, with the barn in the background and the fields stretching beyond. It captured the peaceful beauty of his home in a way he'd probably never seen before through an outsider's appreciative eyes. "So you don't forget me before next weekend," Eva said, trying to keep her tone light. Caleb's fingers traced the lines of the drawing. "I couldn't forget you if I tried, Eva Sinclair." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Ava's heart pounded as Caleb's eyes met hers. For a moment she thought he might kiss her, but instead he carefully folded the drawing and put it in his shirt pocket, right over his heart. "Thank you," he said simply. That night, Eva packed her few belongings, her now clean original clothes, and a few small items she'd accumulated during her stay. She left Annie's borrowed clothes folded neatly on the bed, except for one flannel shirt that Caleb had insisted she keep for when you come back. In the morning, they stood beside Ava's car, an awkward tension between them. Eva had her purse over her shoulder and her keys in her hand, but she couldn't quite make herself get in the car. "So," she said, "I'll see you Friday evening." Caleb nodded. "I'll have dinner waiting." "You don't have to, I want to." He cut her off gently. Eva smiled. "Okay then, it's a date." Caleb's eyes widened slightly at the word date, but he didn't correct her. Instead, he stepped forward and, with a hesitation that made Ava's heart ache, placed a gentle kiss on her cheek. "Drive safe," he murmured, his breath warm against her skin. It took every ounce of willpower Eva possessed to get in her car and drive away. She watched in the rearview mirror as Caleb stood in the driveway, getting smaller and smaller until he disappeared around a bend in the road. The drive back to the city felt like returning to another world. The further Eva got from the farm, the more traffic appeared, the more billboards lined the highway, the more noise surrounded her. By the time she reached her apartment building, the peace she'd found at Caleb's farm felt like a distant dream. The apartment was exactly as she'd left it, dishes in the sink, mail piled on the counter, her mother's cardigan still draped over the couch where Eva had left it the night before her impromptu road trip. But something felt different, or rather, Eva herself felt different. She'd left as a woman running from grief, seeking escape. She returned with a sense of purpose, and the beginnings of something she hadn't expected to find. Hope. Eva set her purse down and picked up her mother's cardigan, holding it to her face. The familiar scent was fading, just as the sharpest edges of her grief were beginning to soften. "I met someone, Mom," she whispered. "I think you would like him." Over the next few days, Eva threw herself into organizing her life. She went to her apartment manager and gave notice she wouldn't be renewing her lease at the end of the month. She met with her boss and negotiated a part-time remote work arrangement. She'd handle certain clients from a distance, coming into the office only when absolutely necessary. "Are you sure about this?" her friend Megan asked when they met for coffee, and Eva explained her plans. "You've only known this farmer for a week. This is crazy. Even for you." "It's not crazy," Eva insisted. "It's the first thing that's made sense to me in months." Megan looked skeptical. "What about Richard? He's been calling me, you know. Says he made a mistake and wants to talk to you." Eva almost laughed. "Richard left when I needed him most. Caleb took me in when I had nothing to offer him." "Which one sounds like the better man to you, but a farm in the middle of nowhere?" Megan shook her head. "You're a city girl, Eva. Always have been." "Maybe I'm changing," Eva said, and as she spoke the words, she realized they were true. The woman who had driven away from the city a week ago was not the same woman who had returned. Something fundamental had shifted inside her. As Friday approached, Eva found herself counting the hours. She packed carefully, not just for the weekend, but for whatever might come next. In her suitcase were not only clothes but her best art, supplies, a laptop for remote work, and a few treasured mementos from her mother. She was taking a risk, she knew that. But for the first time since her mother's diagnosis, Eva felt alive again, truly alive, not just going through the motions. Whether it lasted a month or a lifetime, she was ready to see where this unexpected path might lead. The drive back to the farm felt like coming home. As Eva turned onto the now familiar dirt road, her heart lightened, and when the farmhouse came into view, with Caleb standing on the porch waiting for her, just as she'd imagined he would be, Eva knew with sudden clarity that she'd made the right choice. She'd come looking for shelter from a storm and found something much more valuable, a chance to start again, with a man who had shown her that sometimes the most profound connections begin in the simplest ways, with safety, with kindness, with the quiet recognition of another soul who understands what it means to lose and keep going anyway. As she parked and got out of the car, Caleb walked toward her, that rare full smile finally breaking across his face, and Eva knew, whatever happened next, she was exactly where she was meant to be. Caleb's smile was like sunshine breaking through clouds, rare and all the more precious for it. As Eva stepped out of her car, he walked toward her with long, confident strides. "You came back," he said, as if he'd been half expecting her to change her mind. "I promised I would," Eva replied. Suddenly shy despite the week they'd already spent together, they stood looking at each other for a moment, neither quite sure how to bridge the gap that 5 days apart had created. Then Caleb reached for her suitcase. "That's a lot for just a weekend," he observed, lifting it easily. Eva took a deep breath. "I was hoping maybe I could stay a little longer this time, if that's okay with you." Caleb's eyes met hers, searching how much longer. "I'm not sure," Eva admitted. "I gave notice on my apartment, and I worked out a remote arrangement with my job. I can do most of my work from anywhere now." A slow smile spread across Caleb's face, the second real smile she'd seen from him. "You planning on staying somewhere specific?" Eva felt her cheeks warm. "I was thinking maybe here. With you, unless that's too much too soon." Caleb set down her suitcase and took a step closer. "It's not too much," he said softly. "Not for me." And then, finally, he kissed her. It wasn't a hesitant peck on the cheek like before, but a real kiss, gentle at first, then deeper as Eva responded, her arms sliding around his neck. When they pulled apart, they were both a little breathless. "I've been wanting to do that since you fixed my radio," Caleb confessed, his voice husky. Eva laughed. "I've been wanting you to do that since I saw you standing in that barn doorway." Caleb picked up her suitcase again. "Come on, dinner's getting cold." Inside, the farmhouse smelled of roast chicken and fresh bread. The table was set with a checkered tablecloth Eva hadn't seen before, and there were even candles waiting to be lit. Martha helped, Caleb admitted when he saw Eva's surprised expression. "Said if I was going to have a lady friend over for dinner, I should make an effort." "Lady friend," Eva teased, liking the sound of it. Her words, not mine. Caleb looked slightly embarrassed. "Though I can't think of a better term right now." "Girlfriend would work," Eva suggested boldly. Caleb's eyes softened. "Girlfriend," he repeated, testing the word. I like that. Dinner was delicious. Caleb was a better cook than he'd let on during Ava's first stay, and the conversation flowed easily between them. Ava told him about her week in the city, about giving notice on her apartment and arranging remote work. Caleb talked about the farm, about how the harvest was coming along and his plans for the winter. Where will I sleep? Eva asked later, as they washed dishes side by side. It was a forward question, but she needed to know where they stood. Caleb's hands stilled in the soapy water. Guest room is still made up, he said carefully, but there's room in my bed too if you want. Ava's heart raced. I want, she said, simply. That night, they learned each other slowly, reverently. Caleb's hands, so strong in the fields, were achingly gentle on Ava's skin, and Eva, who had only ever known hurried passion in city apartments, discovered the sweetness of taking time, of being truly seen and cherished afterward. Lying in Caleb's arms as moonlight filtered through the curtains, Eva felt a sense of peace she'd never known before. What are you thinking? Caleb asked, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. That I've never felt so right anywhere, Eva admitted. Is that crazy? We barely know each other? Caleb was quiet for a moment. My dad used to say some people take years to know each other, and some just recognize each other right away, like their souls were already acquainted. I didn't know you were a romantic, Eva teased gently. I'm not, Caleb said. Just telling you what my dad said. But there was a tenderness in his voice that belied his words, and Eva snuggled closer, feeling cherished in a way she never had before. The days fell into a new rhythm. Eva set up a workspace in a corner of the living room, where she could do her graphic design jobs while looking out at the fields. Caleb went about his farm work, sometimes with Ava's help, sometimes alone while she worked on her projects. They learned each other's habits. How Caleb always checked the weather report first thing in the morning. How Eva couldn't start her day without coffee. How they both loved reading in the evenings but preferred different genres. One afternoon, about 2 weeks after Ava's return, Caleb found her sketching in the barn. You're good at that, he said, looking over her shoulder at the drawing of a newborn calf. Thanks. Eva smiled up at him. I've been thinking about doing more of it. Real art. I mean, not just commercial stuff for clients. You should, Caleb encouraged. You've got a gift for capturing things. Eva set down her sketchbook. I've been thinking about something else too, she said hesitantly. What if I fixed up the old storage room off the kitchen? Made it into a proper studio? I'd pay for the materials. Of course. Caleb looked surprised, then pleased. You planning on staying that long? I'd like to, Eva said, if you'll have me. Caleb's answer was to pull her to her feet and kiss her thoroughly. Consider it your space, he said when they finally broke apart. No need to pay for anything. This farm has plenty to share. The next few days were busy as they cleaned out the old storage room together. It was dusty work, sorting through boxes of items that had accumulated over decades of Warren family life. Look at this, Eva said, pulling out an old photograph album. Inside were pictures of Caleb as a boy, gap-toothed and grinning beside a girl who had to be Annie. I haven't seen these in years, Caleb said, sitting beside Eva on the floor. They spent the afternoon going through the album, with Caleb sharing stories about his childhood, about Annie's adventures and misadventures, about his parents and the farm in earlier days. Eva listened, soaking up these pieces of Caleb's past, understanding him better with each story. And when he asked about her childhood, she shared too, about growing up in a small apartment with her mother, about summer days in city parks and winter nights with hot chocolate and board games. We didn't have much, Eva explained, but Mom always made it special somehow. She sounds like an amazing woman, Caleb said. Eva leaned against him, grateful that she could now talk about her mother without the sharp pain that had accompanied her memories just a month ago. She would have liked you. You think so? Caleb seemed genuinely pleased by the idea. I know so. She always said actions speak louder than words. And you, Caleb Warren, are a man of action. The studio took shape gradually. Caleb built shelves for Ava's supplies and a large table where she could work. Eva painted the walls a soft cream color that caught the light beautifully. By the time they finished, it was a bright, inviting space that felt like it had always been part of the house. It's perfect, Eva said, standing in the doorway of her completed studio. Thank you, Caleb replied, wrapping his arms around her from behind, for bringing life back to this old house. Life settled into a pleasant routine. Ava's remote work paid the bills while she began developing her own art on the side. Caleb taught her more about the farm, and she surprised both of them with how quickly she took to country life. Martha became a regular visitor, often bringing baked goods and staying for coffee. Other neighbors began to stop by too, curious about the city girl who had captured Caleb Warren's heart. Never thought I'd see the day, said Bob Jenkins, an elderly farmer who'd known Caleb since he was born. Caleb here was turning into a regular hermit before you came along. I wasn't that bad, Caleb protested, but his arm tightened around Ava's waist as if to say he was grateful she'd changed things. Not everything was perfect, of course. They had their disagreements about how to organize the kitchen, about when to go to bed, about whether the radio should be on or off during dinner. Eva sometimes missed the convenience of city life, the takeout food in movie theaters and shopping malls. Caleb occasionally needed solitude after years of living alone, but they learned to compromise, to communicate, to give each other space when needed and support when asked. And through it all, their connection deepened. One evening, about 3 months after Eva had first arrived during that stormy night, Caleb received a phone call that changed everything. "It's my mother," he said, hanging up the phone with a troubled expression. "She's had a fall, broken her hip. She's asking for me." "Of course, you have to go," Eva said immediately. "We'll leave first thing in the morning." Caleb looked at her with surprise. "Unless you'd rather go alone," Eva backtracked, suddenly uncertain. "No," Caleb said quickly. "I want you with me. I just... You've never met my mother, and she can be difficult." Eva took his hand. "I'm good with difficult people. I worked in advertising, remember?" That got a small smile from Caleb. "It's in Florida. We'd be gone at least a week." "The farm, or called Jimmy Carter, not the president," Caleb added with a hint of amusement. "A local kid who helps out sometimes. He can feed the animals and keep an eye on things." They packed that night and left at dawn, taking Caleb's truck for the long drive south. Eva watched as the landscape changed around them, from the rolling farmland she'd grown to love, through mountains and plains, and finally to the flat, palm tree-dotted terrain of central Florida. Caleb grew quieter the closer they got to their destination, and Eva sensed his tension. "Tell me about your mom," she prompted, hoping to help him process whatever he was feeling. "She's strong-willed," Caleb said after a moment. "Always has been. She ran the household with an iron fist while Dad ran the farm. After he died, she tried to run everything. We butted heads a lot, and then she moved to Florida." Caleb nodded. "After Annie died, I said she couldn't bear to stay in a house with so many ghosts." His hands tightened on the steering wheel. "I understood, but it felt like she was abandoning you," Eva finished softly. "Yeah," Caleb glanced at her gratefully. "Exactly. And now you're worried about seeing her again." "I'm worried about her meeting you," Caleb admitted. "She has ... expectations about the kind of woman I should be with." Eva felt a flutter of anxiety. What kind of woman is that? Country born and raised. Someone who knows about farming. Someone who'll give her grandchildren to carry on the Warren name. Caleb looked uncomfortable. "She's old-fashioned. And I'm a city girl with a career," Eva said, understanding dawning. "You're perfect," Caleb corrected firmly. "But she might not see that right away." Eva reached over and squeezed his hand. "Then we'll just have to help her see it." Elaine Warren lived in a neat little bungalow in a retirement community filled with similar houses. As Caleb and Eva walked up the path to the front door, Eva noticed the well-tended garden clearly. Caleb's mother hadn't lost her love of growing things when she'd left the farm. A small, white-haired woman opened the door before they could knock. Despite the cast on her leg and the walker she leaned on, she stood straight-backed and proud. "It's about time," she said by way of greeting. "I was beginning to think you'd gotten lost." "Hello, Mother," Caleb said, leaning down to kiss her cheek. "This is Eva Sinclair." "Eva, my mother, Elaine Warren." Elaine's sharp eyes assessed Eva from head to toe. "So you're the city girl who's been living with my son." "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Warren," Eva said, refusing to be intimidated. "Caleb has told me so much about you, has he now?" Elaine looked skeptical. "Well, come in." No sense standing on the doorstep for the neighbors to gossip about. The inside of the house was as neat as the outside, with floral patterned furniture and family photos everywhere. Eva noticed that Annie featured prominently, as did Caleb's father, but there were few recent pictures of Caleb himself. "Sit," Elaine commanded, lowering herself carefully into a recliner. "Tell me how you two met." Caleb let Eva tell most of the story, watching his mother's face for reactions. When Eva described being caught in the storm and seeking shelter in the barn, Elaine's expression softened slightly. "He's always had a soft heart," she said, "just like his father." "It's one of the things I love about him," Eva said without thinking. Elaine's eyebrows shot up. "Love, is it? And how long have you known each other?" 3 months. "Sometimes you just know," Eva said, meeting the older woman's gaze steadily. Something like respect flickered in Elaine's eyes. HMPH, we'll see. The next few days were a test of Ava's patience. Elaine questioned everything. Ava's background, her job, her intentions toward Caleb, her ability to adapt to farm life. But Eva stood her ground, answering honestly and refusing to be cowed. "She's trying to drive you away," Caleb said one night in the guest room they shared. "I'm sorry. She's protecting her son," Eva replied. "I understand that. She doesn't know me yet. Most women would have given up by now," Eva smiled. "I'm not most women. And you're worth fighting for, Caleb Warren." The turning point came unexpectedly. Eva was helping Elaine sort through old photographs for an album, a task Elaine had clearly assigned to test Ava's patience, when she came across a picture of a young Elaine standing proudly beside a massive vegetable garden. "This is amazing," Eva said genuinely. "Did you grow all of this yourself?" Elaine looked pleased despite herself. "Every bit. Won the county fair blue ribbon that year for my tomatoes." "Caleb mentioned you were the one who taught him about gardening," Eva said. "I've been trying to learn, but I kill more plants than I save." Elaine snorted. "That's because no one's teaching you properly." Gardening isn't something you learn from books or the internet. Would you teach me? Eva asked impulsively. When you're better, I mean. They began making plans for the wedding, deciding to hold the ceremony in the old barn where they'd first met. We'll clean it up, hang some lights, bring in flowers, Eva envisioned. It'll be perfect. As long as there's no thunderstorm this time, Caleb teased. But as October turned to November, and the last harvest was brought in, they faced their first real challenge as an engaged couple. The bank called again about the farm loan. They're not just raising the interest rate, Caleb explained grimly after hanging up the phone. They want a larger payment up front at the beginning of next year. If we can't make it, they'll start foreclosure. Proceedings. Eva felt cold fear settle in his stomach. Can we make the payment? Caleb ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Eva had come to recognize as a sign of stress. Not without selling off some of the land. The Eastfield maybe, but that's prime farmland, Eva protested. Your best wheat field, I know. Caleb looked more worried than she'd ever seen him. But I don't see another option. The harvest was good this year, but not good enough to cover this. That night, after Caleb had fallen into a troubled sleep, Eva lay awake thinking, there had to be another way. This farm wasn't just land and buildings, it was Caleb's heritage, his family's legacy. She couldn't let him lose even a piece of it, not if there was anything she could do to prevent it. An idea began to form in her mind. The next morning, while Caleb was out fixing fences, Eva made some calls. First to her old boss at the advertising agency. I need more work, Tom, as much as you can send my way. Thought you were enjoying the simple life out there in the sticks, Tom replied. I am, but we could use the extra income right now. Tom promised to send her some additional projects, but they both knew it wouldn't be enough. Next, Eva called her friend Lisa, who worked for a high-end magazine in the city. You still looking for rural content, farm tote table stuff, artisanal living, all that? Always, Lisa confirmed. Why, you got something I might, Eva said. Let me put something together and get back to you. For the next week, Eva worked tirelessly. During the day, she helped Caleb with farm chores and completed her regular graphic design work. At night, after he went to bed, she worked on her secret project, a photo essay and article about life on a small American farm, featuring Caleb's story and her own journey from city to country. She used her graphic design skills to lay it out beautifully, interspersing her own artwork with photographs she'd taken around the farm. The result was a stunning visual narrative that captured both the hardships and the beauty of their life together. When it was finished, she sent it to Lisa, who responded immediately. This is incredible. Eva, my editor, wants to run it as our cover story for the January issue, and she's asking if you'd be interested in a regular column about your new life. The city girl turned farm wife angle is exactly what our readers want right now. The magazine was offering enough for the first article to cover a portion of the bank payment, and a regular column would provide a steady additional income. Eva hadn't told Caleb about her project, wanting to surprise him only if it succeeded. Now, with the magazine's offer in hand, she found him in the barn, fixing a piece of equipment. I need to show you something, she said, carrying her laptop. Caleb wiped his hands on a rag and took the computer from her. His expression changed, from curiosity to amazement, as he scrolled through the article. You did this? He asked, looking up at her with wide eyes. Eva nodded. And the magazine wants to publish it. They're offering good money, Caleb, enough to help with the bank payment. Caleb was silent for a long moment, still looking at the screen. This is us, he said finally. Our life, our story. Is that okay? Eva asked, suddenly uncertain. I should have asked before sending it out, but I wanted to surprise you. Caleb closed the laptop and set it aside, then pulled Eva into his arms. It's more than okay, he said, his voice thick with emotion. It's amazing. You're amazing. So we can accept the offer? Eva asked, relief flooding through her. Yes, Caleb said, but not just for the money. This deserves to be shared. Eva, what you've created here, it's beautiful. With the money from the magazine article and Eva's additional design projects, they were able to make the bank payment without selling any land. It was a temporary solution, but it gave them breathing room to figure out longer-term options. The article's publication brought unexpected opportunities. A local farmers market invited them to sell produce there, expanding their customer base. A nearby restaurant owner read the article and approached them about supplying fresh vegetables for his farm tote table menu. As winter settled over the farm, bringing short days and long nights, Eva and Caleb found themselves busier than ever planning for spring planting, working on wedding details and developing new income streams for the farm. One snowy evening, as they sat by the fire looking at wedding plans, Caleb said, I've been thinking about the Eastfield. Eva tensed, fearing he was still considering selling it. What about it? What if we converted part of it to organic vegetables, higher profit margin than wheat? And with your connections to that restaurant in the farmer's market, Eva felt a rush of excitement. We could do it. I've been reading about organic farming practices, and with your experience and my marketing background, they stayed up late that night, sketching plans and running numbers. By morning, they had the outline of a new business model that would diversify the farm's income without sacrificing its legacy. Warren Family Farms, Caleb said, looking at the logo Eva had designed. Organic produce, sustainably grown. I like it, Eva smiled. Though soon it'll be Warren Family Farms, operated by Mr. and Mrs. Warren. Caleb's eyes softened. Mrs. Warren, I like the sound of that. Winter melted into spring, bringing new growth to the land and new hope to their plans. Ava's regular column in the magazine had developed a following, and orders for their planned organic produce were already coming in. As their wedding day approached, Eva felt a mixture of excitement and nostalgia. She missed her mother more than ever, wishing she could be there to see her marry Caleb. The night before the wedding, Eva found herself sitting on the porch steps, looking up at the stars and thinking of her mum. Caleb found her there and sat beside her without a word, his solid presence a comfort. I was just thinking about my mom, Eva said after a while, wishing she could be here tomorrow. She will be, Caleb said softly. Not in the way we'd want, but she'll be here. Eva leaned against his shoulder, grateful for his understanding. I never thought I'd find this kind of happiness again after she died. I felt so lost. And then you found a barn in a storm, Caleb said, a smile in his voice. And a man who said no harm will reach you here, Eva added, remembering their first meeting. Do you know how much those words meant to me that night? How safe you made me feel when everything in my life felt chaotic. Caleb put his arm around her. I'm glad I could be that for you. You've been the same for me, you know, a safe harbor in a different kind of storm. They sat together under the stars, the eve of their wedding, a quiet moment of reflection before the joyful chaos of the next day. Morning brought sunshine and a flurry of activity. Martha arrived early to help decorate the barn, bringing with her an army of local women bearing flowers, ribbons, and home-cooked food for the reception. Elaine Warren arrived mid-morning, looking more relaxed than Eva had ever seen her. She brought with her a handmade quilt, a wedding gift she'd been working on since their engagement. Warren family tradition, she explained, showing Eva the intricate pattern. Every bride gets one. I made it from some of Annie's clothes too, so she'll be part of your marriage in a way. Eva hugged her future mother-in-law, touched beyond words. Ava's friends from the city arrived in a convoy of cars, looking slightly out of place in their designer clothes, but full of excitement for her. This place is actually charming, Megan admitted as she helped Eva get ready in the farmhouse. And Caleb is even more handsome in person. Those eyes, that jaw. You did good, girl. Eva laughed. Told you you'd understand when you met him. I do, Megan said, suddenly serious. I really do, Eva. He looks at you like you're his whole world. He is mine, Eva said simply. The barn had been transformed. Twinkling lights hung from the rafters, wildflowers and ribbons adorned the walls, and rows of chairs faced a simple arch where Caleb and Eva would say their vows. Eva wore a simple white dress, not a traditional wedding gown, but a flowing bohemian style that suited both her and the setting. In her hair, she wore a crown of wildflowers that Martha had helped her make. When it was time, Eva walked alone down the aisle they'd created in the barn. She'd considered asking one of her friends to give her away, but in the end, she decided to give herself a woman who knew her own mind. Walking freely toward the future she had chosen, Caleb waited for her beneath the arch, looking both nervous and awestruck in his best suit. When their eyes met, everything else seemed to fade away. The guests, the barn, the whole world narrowing to just the two of them. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They exchanged traditional vows, their voices steady and sure. When the local minister pronounced them husband and wife, Caleb kissed Eva with a tenderness that brought tears to her eyes. The reception that followed was a perfect blend of country hospitality and city sophistication. Elaine's homemade pies, alongside wine that Ava's friends had brought from an upscale city vineyard. Local musicians playing while Ava's former colleagues took professional quality photos. As evening fell, lanterns were lit around the farmyard and couples began to dance on the makeshift floor they'd created. Mrs. Warren, Caleb said, taking Ava's hand. May I have this dance? You may, Mr. Warren, Eva replied with a smile, now and always. As they swayed together under the stars, Eva thought about the journey that had brought them here. From strangers meeting in a storm, two partners facing life together. What are you thinking? Caleb asked, his arms secure around her waist. That sometimes getting lost is the only way to find where you're supposed to be, Eva answered. If I hadn't taken that wrong turn in the rain, we would have found each other somehow, Caleb said with certainty. Maybe not that night, but someday. Eva liked that thought, that some connections were meant to be, that some souls recognized each other across any distance. Later, as their guests began to leave, Elaine approached them with a small box. This was buried in my closet in Florida, she explained, handing it to Caleb. Thought today was the right time to bring it out. Inside was a set of keys and a folded document. Caleb read it, his expression changing from confusion to shock. The Eastfield loan, he said, looking up at his mother. You paid it off. Elaine shrugged, trying to appear casual though her eyes were suspiciously bright. Had some savings put away. What good is it doing me? Better to see it help you to start your life together without that hanging over your heads. Eva hugged her mother-in-law impulsively. Thank you, Elaine. This means everything. Yes, well, Elaine said, patting Ava's back awkwardly. Just make sure those organic vegetables of yours turn a profit, and I expect grandchildren eventually. You know, not right away, but don't wait too long. I'm not getting any younger. Caleb laughed, the sound rich and free. We'll see what we can do, Mom. When the last guest had gone and they were finally alone, Eva and Caleb stood on the porch of what was now truly their home. We did it, Eva said, leaning against her husband's chest. We did, Caleb agreed, his arms around her. We're just getting started. Above them, stars pierced the velvet darkness, the same stars that had witnessed their first meeting months ago. The farm stretched around them, peaceful in the moonlight, a legacy now shared between them. 1 year after that stormy night, when Eva had stumbled into Caleb's barn, they stood in the newly planted east field. Rows of organic vegetables stretched before them, tender shoots reaching for the spring sunshine. It's really happening, Eva said, surveying their work with pride. Warren Family Farms, reinvented. Caleb nodded, his arm round her waist. Your column in the magazine has brought in 3 more restaurant contracts. If the crops do well this year, we might actually turn a profit. Eva leaned into him, content. The past year had brought challenges, a broken tractor they couldn't afford to replace, a late frost that damaged some early plantings, endless paperwork for organic certification. But they'd faced each obstacle together, combining Caleb's farming knowledge with Ava's creativity and business sense. I've been thinking, Ava said, placing Caleb's hand on her still flat stomach. Maybe it's time to start planning for that nursery you mentioned. Caleb froze, his eyes widening as he understood her meaning. Are you? Eva nodded, her smile radiant. About 8 weeks along. I confirmed it with the doctor yesterday. Caleb let out a whoop of joy and lifted Eva off her feet, spinning her around carefully. A baby, our baby, our baby, Eva echoed, laughing as he set her down. Due in November. A harvest baby, Caleb said, his hand returning to her stomach with wonder. Perfect timing. That evening they sat on the porch swing as they often did, watching the sun set over their land. Ava's sketchbook lay open on her lap, filled with drawings of nursery designs. What do you think about this one? She asked, showing Caleb a sketch of a crib with farm animals carved into the headboard. I love it, Caleb said, and I think I could build it. My dad taught me woodworking along with everything else. A Warren family crib, Eva smiled. For the next generation of Warrens, the first of many, I hope, Caleb said, his voice soft with emotion. Eva looked out over the farm at the fields they'd planted together, the barn where they'd met and later married, the old farmhouse that had become her true home. She thought of the child growing inside her, who would know only this life, the rhythm of seasons, the satisfaction of growing things, the security of being rooted to a place and to people who loved deeply. Do you ever miss it? Caleb asked, suddenly. The city, your old life. Eva considered the question honestly. Sometimes I miss small things, take-out food at midnight, movie theaters, being able to buy milk without driving 10 miles. She smiled. But no, I don't miss my old life. This is where I belong now with you, with our family. Caleb pulled her closer, dropping a kiss on her temple. You changed everything, you know. When you showed up that night in the rain, you changed everything for me too, Eva replied. You showed me what home really means. As night fell around them, bringing with it the chorus of crickets and the first appearing stars, Eva thought about the long road ahead, raising a child, growing their business, facing whatever challenges came their way. They would be difficult days, she knew. Farming was never easy, and neither was marriage or parenthood. But sitting here with Caleb feeling their baby growing inside her, Eva was filled with a deep certainty that they would weather whatever storms life brought them. Together, they had created not just a business or a marriage, but a shelter, a place of safety and belonging that was strong enough to protect them and flexible enough to grow with them. I love you, Caleb Warren, Eva said, breaking the comfortable silence between them. I love you too, Eva Warren, Caleb replied, the words simple but filled with promise. Now and always. In the distance, thunder rumbled, a spring storm approaching. But this time, Eva didn't feel afraid. This time, she was already home, already sheltered, already exactly where she was meant to be. Caleb squeezed her hand. Should we go inside? Eva shook her head, snuggling closer to him on the swing. Not yet. Let's watch the storm come in. And so they did. Husband and wife, soon to be parents, farmers and dreamers, watching together as lightning illuminated the sky over the land they both now called home. The end.